Protoss died so that Artifact Scythe could live. A few years ago, Artifact Scythe was only really playable with Artifact Sanctum, which was typically played on the side deck and not really in the main deck because people didn't really want to draw this going second where it wouldn't be live against already established boards. Scythe also wasn't necessarily an insta-win because a lot of people couldn't really kill you after they sight you, and on top of that, a lot of decks could afford to play without an extra deck. And on top of that, if you played this with Artifact Sanctum, Scythe could be a massive brick when you drew it, unless you played a card like Tornado Dragon, which was only really playable if you had access to rank 4 toolbox. Now in 2022, things have changed drastically, but I can't really say it's for the best. Scythe retained almost none of these flaws while still being really powerful, if not even stronger than ever, and on top of that, you no longer have to play Sanctum in order to run it. You are also practically always guaranteed to kill your opponent on your follow-up turn after sighting your opponent, since decks are just way too explosive right now, and if your opponent passes without summoning from the extra deck, it's basically a guarantee that you're going to up against an empty board, and you can go for a game. Outside of Flunderies, Eldritch, and maybe Dinosaur, I can't really think of a lot of decks that can really afford to play without an extra deck. It is really way too important. I think Yu-Gi-Oh! Has evolved to a point where if you can't summon a lot of Xyz, Link, or Synchro or whatever, your deck is just way too slow, and even if you can, you still have to play against, you know, Baroness, Herald of Arclight, and so many other negates. And as an added bonus, even if your deck can't make Xyz monsters like Tornado Dragon to pop your Scythe, you can just turn any 2 monsters into Verte Anaconda, summon Phoenix Enforcer, and not only pop your own Artifact Scythe, but also a card your opponent controls. On top of that, your Phoenix Enforcer has infinite recursion, and you draw 2 cards with Celestial. You get way too much value for literally free. And even other decks have been abusing Artifact Scythe without even using DAGDA, so you really can't say that Artifact DAGDA is the only problem with Artifact Scythe being an issue. No, because you can go Beatrice, send the Artifact Scythe, and then on your opponent's standby phase, either revive it back with Baroness, or revive it back with PAIREN, the Skylark Dragon, or whatever, which is a rank 6 monster that you can play in Virtual World, for example. Sure, you can say that Artifact DAGDA is the main issue with Artifact Scythe being way too good, but to be fair, for the past 5 or even 6 years, we can say that Artifact Scythe has been way too unfair compared to the other artifacts like Moralitach, and I think it is time for a change. The reason I'm comparing Artifact Scythe to Arch Nemesis Protoss is because Arch Nemesis Protoss is only locked to Sword Soul, which really isn't that unfair because the deck isn't like degenerate tier 0, even when the deck was at full power. Not that many people complained about the deck. People were complaining especially about Lyrilless Tri-Brigade, but Arch Nemesis Protoss is also a card that only gets to call 1 attribute, so if you blind call something that doesn't match what your opponent is playing in game 1, your Protoss isn't as strong as Artifact Scythe, but Artifact Scythe is completely ignorant. It covers way too much ground, and it doesn't matter what your opponent is playing, whether you're in game 1, game 2, game 3, you always win when you resolve Scythe, and that's a massive issue. I do not think it is fair to force people to play way too many going second cards if they want to have a shot against these kind of combo decks, just like I think it is not fair for these kind of powerful cards to exist in one of them more strategies. Artifact Scythe isn't even a card that belongs to the artifact archetype, quote unquote. Nobody cares about that. People are just splashing 1 Scythe, 1 Dagda in Phantom Knight, Based, and so many other decks, punishing people left and right just for existing and using their extra deck. Again, I'm not trying to say that I think Protoss shouldn't have been banned, because I actually vouched for Protoss to be banned even when I was playing Sword Soul, so I'm not biased at all. All I'm trying to say is that if Konami had to choose between only banning either Protoss or Scythe, the priority should have been to ban Scythe, because I actually think that card is the most oppressive one, since it can be played in way more strategies, and like I said, covers way more ground than Protoss. And also the decks that can play Artifact Scythe are usually a little better than the decks can play Protoss. Anyways, that's all I had to say for this video. I really want to see what you guys actually have to say about this topic, so please let me know in the comment section below. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys very soon. Peace.